Welcome to Dim Pixels. My name is Greg and I like retro video games. On this channel I'll play them, so you don't have to, unless you want to, in which case don't let me stop you. In fact, I recommend playing games. Play them all. Anyway, today I'll be covering Demont Front. This one was originally released to arcades around the world all the way back in 2002, which wasn't actually that long ago, depending on how old you are. But whatevs. It was published by International Game System, who, honestly, I didn't even know existed until I decided to review this game. But as it turns out, they're probably most well known for their Knights of Valor games. Knights of Valor. They also made the worst game in my favourite bullet hell series, Demont 2, B-Storm. It wasn't a terrible game, the rest were just so much better. Anyway, let's take a nice, long, slow, in-depth look at Demont Front. Before we continue though, here's a quick overview of my review process. I select a game, gathering as many details about it as I can, then I play it for at least 1 hour, and that's it. So yes, for arcades that means credit feeding pretty much, and for everything else that means I won't be getting anywhere near finishing the game, but that's kind of the point. My reviews will focus on how fun the game is and whether or not you should check it out. It's not a critical review of the game as a whole because, let's face it, these games are old and times have changed. After that, I determine how much fun I had during my playtime, how long it took me to nope out, and if I were to continue, what my goals might be. And that's about it. You can request a game in the comments and I might get around to it one day, but of course that's only games I can get my hands on or that I have the right equipment for. So, Demont Front is a side-scrolling run-and-gun shooter, not dissimilar to the very well-known Metal Slug. In fact, it's very not dissimilar. Like a lot. We'll get to that. First, a disclaimer. I love these kinds of games. In fact, the more you watch my channel, the more you'll learn that I love arcade games of all kinds, especially run-and-gun shooters, so take my thoughts with a grain of salt, and as always, your mileage may vary. But first things first, my first impressions. When I was introduced to this game by another YouTube channel that I don't remember now, sorry, random YouTuber, I will try to be better, I honestly thought it was part of the Metal Slug series when I first saw it, or at least an offshoot, or at the very least, made by SNK. But it's not. It was made by IGS, as I mentioned, and was released around the same time as Metal Slug 4, which, as you might have guessed, was released not long after Metal Slug 3, which is generally regarded as the best in the series. I'm fairly sure IGS saw the popularity of Metal Slug and decided they wanted a piece of that action, because why not? So based on that comparison alone, it does look pretty slick, but there are plenty of areas where the game differs. The biggest difference would be that it lacks any form of vehicle, and those in the know are aware that Metal Slug loves vehicles. Aside from that, each character has their own little pet following them around. This can give players a little magic barrier that takes a surprising amount of damage before it disappears, and considering the barrier used to be your pet, I guess that means your pet dies to protect you? Poor little thing. It does get better though. Another area of difference is in the weapons. While they're not massively different, they do tend to feel more magic based, I guess. There's flamethrowers, freezing blasts, shotguns that do massive damage. Holding down the shoot button will also charge your pet, which will do some sort of special attack when the button is released. Honestly, I never really used this feature much, and I relied more on the shield, which has clear utility. Up close and personal, your character will perform a powerful melee attack. Like Metal Slug, this is pretty overpowered, and in Demont Front will also award you with a little heart, which boosts the shield. Although your pets are different between the 4 characters, which do of course look significantly different themselves, I didn't find that they actually played differently. Apparently they do, but I don't know, I didn't feel like they did. Although I did prefer to use the Doctor because he looks tougher and has a pretty sweet beard. Again, similar to Metal Slug, Demont Front can be frustrating as the difficulty is often due to an overwhelming number of enemies. I probably put 50 credits into a single playthrough and reached the end in about an hour. Overall, it was a satisfying experience simply because it's fun. However, learning to play this game on even fewer than 10 credits is probably a huge challenge. There's a skill element of course, but the reality is much of the game needs to be learned by rote in order to progress, which I guess is pretty standard for arcade titles, to be honest. This applies mostly to mid and end stage bosses. Mid bosses especially are often annoyingly unclear. I often found myself wondering what I was supposed to be doing. Many of the mid-stage bosses would benefit from a life bar, in fact, or maybe I'm just crap, I don't know. This is a definite maybe. There are several sections in the game that do make you feel kind of badass, as Americans like to say, which is awesome, but it's often short-lived and generally followed very quickly by your death. These usually happen during bosses, after you've started to learn the pattern. Sadly though, bosses also tend to change up their pattern as time, or more accurately damage, increases. Often, they'll combine patterns to both take you by surprise and make you fail. Thanks game. Feels a little bit cheap, but it's still fun. Overall, Demont Front is actually very fun and comes highly recommended, but it's not as good as Metal Slug. At a 50 credit clear, and I wish I counted so I knew exactly how many credits it actually was, but oh well. This would have cost anywhere from $25 to $100 to beat back in the arcades, depending on what the price was set at. I'd say that's probably pretty fair, at least at the low end. $25 to $50 seems fair to me, even though it was frustrating at times. Having 3 lives gave you few chances to get past difficult sections without wasting a credit, for example. Not that it really helped me. So what was Demont Front's legacy? Nothing, probably. There were plenty of similar run-and-gun games that came out not long after, including the equally brilliant Dolphin Blue that I'll get around to one day, but I wouldn't say any of them were influenced by Demont Front. Pretty much every game like this is either influenced by Contra or Metal Slug. Sadly, Demont Front was never ported or remade, so the only way to play it, at least at the time of recording, is via emulation, unless you can find a cabinet in an arcade somewhere, in which case I highly recommend you throw in a coin. So, after an hour with the game I finished it, through credit feeding of course. I enjoyed the hour and I'll probably play again from time to time, but I don't think I'll go back to try to master it. I have no need to. As with every game I review, I recommend you also give it a shot if you have the means. Even if you're bored after 5 minutes, at least you gave it a try. However, it will clearly appeal mostly to those that enjoy the Metal Slug series. It plays quite well, the weapons feel different, and the fantasy environment might appeal to you in a different way. Have you played Demont Front before? What were your thoughts? Leave your thoughts in the comment below, or if you have a game you want me to take a look at, drop that in the comments too, and perhaps one day I'll get around to it. But thank you for watching. Let's play all the games.